Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down and drink a cup of tea. Is that the intro, Jackson? You gonna keep me hanging here or what?
Sounds like you still haven't recovered from our fourth ever minisode covering I'm Thinking of Ending Things, but
No.
Dan Allen Movies, were you glad that this week, this minisode, will be covering something a little more digestible?
Yeah, it depends who you ask. I mean, I've seen some of the critic reviews for this film, which we are reviewing today. Obviously, you've seen the title, you clicked on the podcast. It's Mulan. No, not the original. This is the new Disney remake. And we know the Disney remakes have just been hitting them out of the park with all the fans. Isn't that right, Jackson?
Oh, truer words have never been spoken, Dan Allen Movies. In fact, you might even say that these Disney live-action adaptations have been fantastic, and they've never been better than here in Mulan.
Well, how have you been, mate? You been good?
I've just been stellar. Lockdown, stage 4 restrictions, isolation continues to rot away and eat at me like some seagulls outside a lighthouse here in Melbourne, Victoria. Listeners, we still haven't made it back to the cinemas, and that means we've got to bring the cinemas, the theatre-going experience to us. Dan Allen Movies, for the low price of $43.98 to watch Mulan as many times as you want in the next 90 days before it goes free on Disney+.
Only
What do you
90
think?
days.
That's right. So, Dan Allen Movies, we went ahead. We purchased this together. In fact, I made the decision. We've got the $9 Disney Plus account here in Australia. Another $35 on top of that to get Mulan. Yes, it's premium video on demand. Yes, we can now watch it as many times as we want before it's released to the public. But what do you think of that price point compared to going to the cinemas?
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. The only movie I'd pay that amount of money for is Tenet. So, look, you had to do some convincing to get me on board for that, but even then you didn't. You just went out and bought it. So, put it on the company credit card, and that'll be a tax write-off.
Absolutely. You know what, Dan? I thought it's my time. It's my shot. I was not throwing away my shot to purchase Mulan.
I am not throwing away my shot. I'm just like my hungry. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry.
Now, why couldn't we have paid to see that on Disney
I know.
Plus? Why was
Happily.
it this?
Happily. Disney, how many remakes have they done recently? We've got Aladdin, we've got Lion King, Mulan. I can't think of any others off the top. Was that the only 3 recently? Oh, Jungle Book?
You know what, Dan? I'm
Jungle
so glad you asked, because I thought the same thing. How did this current craze of Disney remakes really start kicking off? And how many of these have I actually seen? I'm got to be 99% certain you've seen more. Going back, doing my research, here goes. So we've got the Jungle Book movie that came out in the mid-90s, directed by Stephen Sommers, who would go on to do the Mummy films. We've got 101 Dalmatians, and the sequel 102 Dalmatians, both starring Glenn Close, came out in 96 and 2000. The first one was directed by Stephen Herrick, who Stephen Herrick actually directed Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So go check out that episode, people, on Face the Music, please. Anyway, these really shot off, Dan, with Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, which dropped in 2010. That went on to make $1 billion. We got a sequel from that, Alice Through the Looking Glass. And, in the few years since, everyone's been pumping them out. So we've seen Maleficent.
Maleficent.
Oh my God, the soundboard.
Hold on. Hey, they're both Leo. Give me credit.
It's Corona time?
It's Corona time, I am. No, I'm only stirring you. It is Corona time.
It's Corona time right now.
Oh, this is disgusting.
We've just entered self-parody here at the We Watch This Movie podcast. All right, back to it. Following that movie starring Angelina Jolie, we've had Cinderella, The Jungle Book, which you mentioned, Beauty and the Beast, Christopher Robin, Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King, and now this, all in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So just recently, it's been a huge spate of these live action adaptations. And of what I've mentioned, I've only seen Alice in Wonderland, which I didn't really care for all that much. What's your opinion on these live action adaptations?
Well, not a single one has gotten over a 7 out of 10. So none have been great. None have been outstanding in my book. And a lot of them have been bottom of the barrel, sort of really low. So... yeah, I mean, the money talks, doesn't it? You know, they all hit $1 billion. Aladdin near $1 billion. Lion King did great numbers. Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book. The list goes on. The money talks, so they'll just keep doing them. And obviously there's families and people out there that are enjoying them. So good on them. And I guess they do have a good message for kids. So that's one good thing. I think these movies are good for kids. You have to admit it. No, you know, even if they're not as good as the originals. You know, I always say show your kids the originals.
Yeah, for sure.
But if this is more digestible for them, then there's still good messages in there for children, for kids.
I suppose. And Dan, you know, you said these make money, but all of these films have ridiculous budgets. Mulan here, reported, who knows how much it actually is, reported production budget, I should say, of $200 million. It's the second ever film to be directed by a woman, which is an important point we'll mention here later in this minisode. The second ever movie with a budget more than $100 million to be directed by a woman, Nikki Caro, who first, New Zealand-born white director, who first gave us Whale Rider. The first movie being Ava DuVernay's A Wrinkle in Time, which I haven't even seen. And it's the second, I think it is the first ever Disney live adaptation directed by a woman, and the second ever Disney film by a Kiwi-born. God, this segment has just gone absolutely down the gurgler. Please help me, save me.
All right, Jackson, we've beaten around the bush. You know
what? The point here is I just don't care for these. I don't know how you feel. You said nothing higher than a 7 out of 10, but I don't care for them, and I want to make that clear.
All right, well, why don't we get straight into our review for Mulan?
Save me.
Ancestors, watch over my daughter Mulan. If her identity is discovered, she will be killed.
My journey was impossible. But it is my duty to protect my family. I'm Hua Mulan.
In theaters March 27th.
When
in theaters March 27th. That didn't happen.
That definitely did not happen. Why didn't it happen, Dan? What time is it?
Hey, it's Corona time right now.
He's done it. He's redeemed himself. Dan Ellen Movies. He's back. All right, on with the episode. When the Emperor of China issues a decree that one man per family must serve in the Imperial Army to defend the country from northern invaders, Hua Mulan, the eldest daughter of an honored warrior, steps in to take the place of her ailing father. Masquerading as a man, Hua Jun, she is tested every step of the way and must harness her inner strength and embrace her true potential. It is an epic journey that will transform her into an honored warrior and earn her the respect of a grateful nation and a proud father. Dan, what did you think of Star Wars Rogue One meets A New Hope?
Compared to the original, it wasn't as good. Obviously, you know, it's been said many times before. I'm not treading any new ground here. It just fell flat in terms of the stakes, the acting, the writing. Everything seemed to fall a little flat. There was just no... I didn't feel sort of connected to these characters at all. The only redeemable factor that I mentioned was, to you off air, was the father-daughter relationship. And if they tapped into that a little bit more, they might have had me at a higher mark here. They did sort of win me over by the end when they came together. Spoilers. But, you know, wasn't enough of that. And, you know, it's probably halfway through there. You're just thinking, come on, what we need a bit more. The action scenes were very generic. They tried some different things with the cinematography. It didn't work for me at all. Everything, they don't want to put blood in this. We get it. It's for kids. But you gotta come up with something. I just thought the choreography was very generic.
Yes.
And some of the moves by Milan were they just looked really fake. I don't know. That's what I thought. I wanted to like this. I don't think it's bad, like a lot of people are saying. I think it's middle of the road. I really do. So yeah, I am slightly disappointed. There was good music. I didn't mind the actress who played Mulan, and I love Donnie Yen. He's a legend. He's an absolute legend. So yeah, maybe those two as well won me over. But then again, everything seemed to move so fast. Like from the original movie, some of those key moments, they sort of glazed over it, I felt. So yeah, what did you think?
Very mediocre.
Mm.
A lot of my points are going to echo yours, Dan, that it wasn't all that interesting. I kept waiting for something hilarious or subversive to pop up. I guess we've had it too good with some of these Marvel movies, and I want to point to this other big film you might have heard of by another Kiwi director, Thor Ragnarok, little indie picture, where it had a certain kind of unique charm and a different sense of humor, and it very much was, about these what felt like a throwback to medieval times with a lot of themes of family, Shakespearean stuff, and stuff that could be quite serious and heavy-handed. In that movie, handled very well, very clever by subverting expectations, which we'd love to talk about here at the We Watchers Movie Podcast. In this, though, the script was so dry and it was executed just to nothing. Like you said it about the fight scenes and this wire work. It wasn't all that interesting. Yes, you can't have any blood. We get it. So there are some things there that you can't show. Mulan, she's out there. She's taking out goons. We've got the big fight scene at the end with an arrow going in. No spoilers here, people. Didn't say who went in. But it just doesn't land. It doesn't hit. Are we the ideal audience for this? Probably not. Are the Chinese? Well, we'll find about that when we get to the segment on ratings here. But yeah, it's just very weak and flat. And for a $200 million movie, okay, there's no whitewashing going on in the cast. Great. But what about these wigs? Does $200 million honestly buy you these shoddy wigs? And what about the dubbing on some of these voices? It was either the ADR just playing tricks in my mind, but you've cast Jet Li in your movie, yet he sounds like a character out of Team America or Kung Pao Into the Fist.
He did, didn't he?
They really do.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Is that the best that you could have gotten out of some of these actors? And he wasn't alone in the cast. It feels very false. A $200 million movie with all this green screen and digital work. Come on, give us something else. Is it gorgeous to look at times? Sure. But it falls so flat. It is such a shallow film. I think probably the most interesting part of it, you said, Dan, the father-daughter dynamic, which could have been explored a little bit more. Maybe we could have had a few cutaways while Mulan was training at the soldiers' barracks, learning to become a better troop, even though, as we found out later, she didn't even need to. She had the Jedi powers within her the whole time. She just had to let her hair down. Why couldn't we cut away to see what her father was up to? He seemed like an interesting enough character. No, we've got to save him for the very last final 10 minutes. Just come on. Give us something interesting. What was the point of this?
To me, there was sort of a payoff with that at the end where they embraced, but even then there was some sort of fakeness to it, wasn't there?
There was, and it felt like he was always on her side, and he had accepted that she was going to be a warrior at some point because she was so strong in the chi or strong in the force, however we want to call it, right? So it's not like he was trying to he wasn't trying to put her inside a box where, because she was a woman, that she had to go out and be married. He recognized that she had it within her. She didn't have to prove herself to him. She had to prove herself to her mum.
Do you think it was the writing or the acting that let this down predominantly? Which part? Or is it a combination of both?
We are throwing stones in a glass house here because, we're not exactly helming a $200 million picture. But I'm going to put this on the studio and I'm going to put this on Nikki Caro, our female director, because there was nothing interesting done here whatsoever.
Do you think she might have been held back, though? By the corporation?
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you've got a $200 million budget on a prized property like Mulan that
How many
I don't know
eyes are
about
on
you.
this project, you know? How many producers are looking over her shoulder?
Exactly, yeah. And if this really is being developed for the Chinese market, where their own films over there in their some of their native languages like Mandarin and Cantonese, featuring their own actors, do huge box office. Sure, Disney can go in and try and compete with that, but you've got to give that market something interesting. If you want to make a film that's going to be part action, part family drama, okay, go for it. But you're not executing either of them well, and not well enough to mesh them together.
My issue, a big issue for me, was this chi element. Now, it sort of contradicted the whole movie. I thought, like, talk to me if I'm wrong here, but this chi sort of gives her a special power. So, you know, young females across the world are supposed to look at Mulan and think, wow, I can do what guys do. I can fit in. I can be a warrior, okay? But then they see that she's got this special powers, the force, the chi. You know, young girls don't have that. So is that a contradiction? I think it is. Why not just have her be a normal person with no special powers, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I believe that's a great point. Absolutely. If that's something that she had with her inherent when she was younger, why couldn't we get a scene of maybe her sister showing flashes of that? If you're going to go all out mentioning that this is something that could be with all women, okay, we do have a female antagonist who is a witch and has magical powers, but then that arc is quite weak and it doesn't really line up. There's meant to be some kind of dynamic and relationship between the two of them.
No,
it's not explored
Shocking.
enough to suggest that there's something deeper at play with all these women having this power inside of them. Okay, you're listening to two males in their 20s on a podcast about movies. You're not going to hear any women listening to this. But come on, give us something interesting, please. This is so boring.
If you're going to do that with the chi, take it off her at some point and have her go over the obstacle without that at some point in the movie to show that
was she
you know what I
proving
mean?
herself to the men with it? I guess she was. There was that scene where she
That's
had
what
the
I'm
fight and she
saying.
had to channel it to win.
So
So
why-
I guess you're right. Yeah.
I just thought it was contradictory. So let me know, listeners, if you think I've missed the mark there. But Jackson, why don't we head into your ratings?
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
Dan, I've got some special surprises here for you and our faithful listeners as we go through Jackson's ratings. I've grabbed some ratings from some Chinese sources. So let's listen to what the Chinese public have thought so far about Mulan. From one of the film-going sites, Maoyan, 7.5 out of 10. Thanks to my friends over at Google Translate, letting me know how to move some of those characters. Another one, Tao Piao Piao, which I'm sure I'm butchering. So if we can get a cue there, that might be worth it. 7.5 out of 10 as well. So it's actually regarded quite well. Yeah, the crickets will do. Thank you very much, DJ Dan Allen Movies. Up next, here we go. Duban, Antonio Margoletti.
Now, if you're playing the movie on a telephone, you will.
I don't know. Sorry. I've lost the plot.
The shark has been jumped. Okay. This is like think of like a pop culture reviewing site
Antonio
where
Margarete. Margarete.
You wanted it. Sorry. Go ahead.
I did. Thank you. Duban, 4.9 out of 10. 4.9 out of 10 from a Chinese reviewing site. They've collated so far 166,709 user reviews to give a 4.9 out of 10. Is there a bit of review bombing going on across this and some of the websites we're going to hear through the rest of this segment? Probably, but the Chinese haven't been very happy with how this film has portrayed their culture, portrayed this ageless tale, because it wasn't something original from Disney. It's inspired by, what is a Chinese legend. Up next, Dan, IMDb. Give me a number out of 10. Go on.
4.
5.4 out of 10 from 45,675 user ratings, which is quite high for something that's been out, a fortnight from when we're recording? That's very low. Over to Rotten Tomatoes. Listeners, this is certified fresh. 75% of critics, 267 of them, have given it a fresh or positive review. Its average score is 6.83 out of 10. On the flip side, Dan, what do you reckon the audience score is?
Well, just to touch on that,
Please.
I would probably... Because you've either got to go fresh or rotten, right? You've got to pick a side. I would probably lean towards fresh rather than rotten. And I know you're probably leaning rotten. In this scenario, I can understand why it's 76. If you look at that, they're probably all 3 out of 5s. You know what I mean? So...
Well, an average rating of 6.83 out of 10, and there's been 267 critic reviews collated so far. So critics have been out in arms to talk about this film, and they are rating it quite well.
Yep. An audience score?
Do you reckon the audience score for this is higher or lower than the current audience score for I'm Thinking of Ending Things?
It's got to be lower.
The audience score for this is higher than Charlie Kaufman's movie. It's 51% of audiences have given this a score of 3.5 out of 5 or more. Of that, we've already seen 8,286 ratings. Now, I'm emphasizing that, listeners, because for a movie that's been out a fortnight, that's huge. Could there be a lot of Chinese on Rotten Tomatoes? Probably. Average rating of 3.03 out of 5. So critics and audiences are heavily divided with this. By the way, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I think it's coming in at maybe like 47% of audiences gave it a 3.5 or out of 5 or more. So Dan, don't worry. We're not alone here in not enjoying that one. Metacritic, 51 critic reviews, 67 out of 100. User score with 843 ratings, 2.7 out of 10.
Yeah, well, it wasn't slow and it wasn't pretentious, was it?
No, audiences do hate it though. Finally, They Who Shall Not Be Named, 2.5 out of 5. It's been watched by nearly 36,000 members on They Who Shall Not Be Named and liked by 4,341 members. So again, not the best reviews. I can't blame them.
Yeah, it's look, it's one of those films where if you're going to charge that amount of money, this has to be outstanding, and it's not. So
for $44 Australian, absolutely. It might be okay for some families who are spending more to bring everyone to the cinemas, but for you and I mean, come on.
Unless you've got a real expendable income, then I would not recommend this to paying that amount. I would wait till it goes free on Disney. So with that being said, Jackson, my final rating for Mulan is coming in at 5 out of 10, which is disappointing on my scale. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much else I can say. I was just completely disappointed. You know, a few things won me over to get that rating up a little bit higher, but yeah, just overall fell flat, a little bit flat.
Dan Allen Movies. For me, this is coming at 4 out of 10 missing Mushu subplots. You've stripped away romance, you've stripped away animated characters, you've stripped away musical numbers, and what's left isn't all that great. I'm so sorry. I just didn't enjoy this. I'm not going to be returning. A 4 for me is bad. 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5. I can't really recommend this to anyone. Does it pass the time for 2 hours? I suppose, but it's not enjoyable.
Does it pass the time? That is not a glowing review, that's for sure.
It wasn't. In the third act, we're building up to the climax. Momentum, heart's meant to be racing. I'm looking for my phone. I'm looking for my phone.
Honestly, that ending, that whole section with that bad guy, so flat, wasn't it? Just no stakes.
It really was.
No stakes at all. You knew she was going to look...
We never had any hint of danger. Just kill off one of these characters. We're not getting a sequel to this. Just murder someone. Would this have brought in like probably 600 million? Let's be real. 600 million to make back its budget and then profit if it weren't for COVID-19? Probably not.
No. Not with the quality we got here. I don't think. If everything was normal, I reckon this would have made about 500 at the box office. So,
I've found a reported budget of 200 million. I've even seen figures of 300 and 300 million plus marketing, 500 million at the box office.
it's
Dan
not, it's
isn't
not
going to bring
enough.
it back.
It's not enough, yeah. So this wouldn't hit a billion. No way. Not at this quality, I don't think.
No.
So
Can we just get a straight to streaming release that you and I can both agree on is good? Because this has been real tough for us here at the podcast.
yeah, so that's going to be a 9 out of 20, which is a 4. We scale down, don't we?
We do. So a 9 out of 20, a 4 out of 10, a 2 out of 5, which puts it at the exact same rating as I'm thinking of ending things. I'm sorry to throw back to that movie so much, but look, like it, love it, hate it, like Dan Allen movies, it left an impact.
Make sure you do listen to that one if you haven't, guys. And also check out our Bloodshot review, which is still our lowest reviewed full episode. And it might always will be unless you head over there, click play. Even if you don't want to listen, just click play, please. We're
Anything.
begging.
We beg you. With that, Dan, that is Minisode number 5 in the can. Mulan 2020 has wrapped up. Thank you very much for the outro music. Dan Allen Movies, where can our listeners find you?
You can find me at Dan Allen Movies on Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd. You can find him at
Marshall on Film, followed by an underscore on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, Twitter, even on TikTok. Dan, where can our listeners find this podcast?
We Watch This Podcast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all good podcast apps.
Absolutely. You can follow us on our social media, Instagram, Letterboxd, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even on TikTok. Make sure you rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you enjoy what we're putting out. Subscribe to our YouTube. We've got some exclusive content there. And that is it for today. We are out of time.
See you later, guys. If you guys are still here and you've listened to all this, you guys are absolute legends. 5-star rating on Apple. We'll see you next time.